Okay, picture this. London, August 23rd, 1305. The city's packed, absolutely buzzing. But it's not a happy buzz.
No, definitely not. There's this grim feeling in the air, right?
Exactly. You hear the usual city sounds, horses, wood scraping, but then there's this other noise. Just awful.
The sound of flesh being dragged across cobblestones.
Yeah. And the crowd parts, and there he is, William Wallace. Naked, tied to a hurdle, being pulled by a horse.
After a brutal, 400-mile journey, his body's just wrecked.
A map of England's fury, you could say. But his eyes, they're still defiant. It's chilling. This isn't just an execution.
No, it's pure spectacle, meant to break a spirit, meant to echo.
And that image, that defiance against overwhelming power, that's really what we're digging into today, isn't it?
It absolutely is. We're going to unpack the history, the sources, even the legends surrounding Wallace, try and figure out why he became this immortal symbol.
Right. How does such a horrific end actually, ignite something?
That's the mission. How this attempt to crush hope actually sparked this undying spirit of freedom for Scotland.
So let's start with the man himself. William Wallace, born around 1270.
Yeah, roughly 1270 in Renfrew, Scotland. Beautiful area.
And his early life wasn't quite what you might expect for a future warrior, was it?
No, surprisingly cultured, really. He learned to read, write, even studied Latin with monks. That was pretty unusual for his station back then.
A luxury, definitely. But physically, he was something else.
Oh, yeah, a giant. Reports say nearly 6'5", broad shoulders, strong, could handle a massive, 6-foot sword like it was nothing.
Just built differently, a formidable presence.
He really was. And he grew up during what felt like a relatively good time for Scotland.
King Alexander III was on the throne, the golden age.
Exactly. Relative peace, prosperity, markets doing well. But that all came crashing down in 1286.
Alexander's sudden death, a storm, right?
Yeah, a tragic accident. And crucially, he left no clear adult heir, just his very young granddaughter, Margaret, the Maid of Norway.
Who was only 3 years old.
Right. So Scotland was run by guardians trying to hold things together. But then Margaret herself died in 1290 on her way over.
Leaving Scotland totally rudderless. No king, no heir. A succession crisis.
A huge power vacuum. And that's when Edward I of England enters the picture.
Edward Longshanks.
Yeah.
Serious player. 6'2" himself, already conquered Wales. His eyes turned north.
You got it. And the Scottish nobles, terrified of civil war between different claimants to the throne, they make this fateful call.
They invite Edward to mediate, to choose the next king.
Yeah, they thought he'd be an impartial judge. Big mistake. They basically invited the wolf into the sheep pen.
And he chooses John Balliol.
A man Edward clearly thought he could control. A puppet king, essentially.
But just choosing the king wasn't enough for Edward, was it?
Not even close. His ambitions were much bigger. He immediately started undermining Scottish independence bit by bit.
So?
He made Scottish nobles swear loyalty directly to him. He insisted Scottish legal cases could be appealed to English courts, demanded Scottish knights fight in his wars abroad.
Each one like tightening a noose.
Exactly. It pushed things to a breaking point. By 1296, even Balliol tried to push back, renounce his fealty.
How did Edward react to that?
Swiftly and brutally, he marched his army north. The first major town they hit was Berwick-upon-Tweed.
And the sack of Berwick.
Yeah.
It's infamous.
Utterly horrific, a calculated act of terror, something like 17,000 people killed in a day. Chroniclers wrote about rivers running red, bodies piled up.
Just unimaginable brutality.
And that event, that sheer savagery, it burned itself into the Scottish memory. It certainly must have hardened Wallace's resolve. Edward then humiliated Balliol, stripped him of his kingship, declared himself the overlord. Scotland's independence was, on paper, gone.
So against that grim backdrop, what finally pushes Wallace himself into open rebellion? May 1297.
Yeah, May 97. The exact spark, like the very specific incident, is a bit lost to time. Later poems talk about the murder of his love, Marion Bradefeud.
The romantic trigger.
Right. Or maybe it was just witnessing one too many acts of oppression. But the key event we know is he confronted and killed William Heselrigg.
The English sheriff of Lanark. A symbol of the occupation.
Exactly. This wasn't just a brawl, it was a direct challenge to English rule, a very public one.
And that act must have sent ripples, maybe shockwaves, across Scotland.
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly, here was someone, not a noble initially, but a commoner, willing to fight back, willing to spill English blood, refusing to bow down.
So people started joining him.
They did. Men started slipping away from their homes, heading for the hills, the forests, finding Wallace. And he wasn't just some, bandit leader.
He had skills beyond just fighting.
Definitely. A sharp tactical mind, apparently. And this powerful, unwavering belief in Scotland's right to be free. His rallying cry was incredibly potent.
What was it again? Something about freedom.
We fight not for glory or riches, but for freedom alone, which no good man loses but with his life. Powerful stuff.
Really galvanizing. And it led, incredibly quickly, to a major confrontation. Stirling Bridge.
Autumn 1297. And the odds were just stacked against them. Maybe 6,000 Scots facing 15,000 English.
Including England's best heavy cavalry, fearsome knights.
And the English commanders, Warren and Cressingham, they were apparently massively overconfident, almost dismissive of the Scots.
Big mistake. Underestimating Wallace.
Huge mistake. This is where Wallace's tactical brain really shone. The key was the bridge itself, very narrow.
Right. Only a few men could cross side by side.
Exactly. So Wallace waited. He had the discipline to hold his men back while the English army slowly, painstakingly filed across that bridge, hour after hour.
Incredible patience. When did he spring the trap?
When roughly half the English force was across, then, bam, the Scots charged. They effectively cut the English army in two, created a total bottleneck.
Chopped him on the Scottish side.
Precisely. The English cavalry, their main strength, had no room to maneuver. Their superior numbers meant nothing. It was a slaughter.
And Cressingham, the treasurer, he met a particularly nasty end.
He did. He was deeply hated for his greed and cruelty. When he fell, the Scots reportedly flayed his body, made things like belts from his skin.
Grim trophies, a sign of the sheer hatred.
It really was. By the end of the day, the invincible English army was shattered. And Wallace. He was the hero of the hour, guardian of Scotland.
An absolutely stunning victory. How did Edward Longshanks take the news?
Badly. Very badly. He was campaigning in France, I think. He dropped everything, recalled his best knights, gathered a massive new army. His one goal, crush Wallace. Utterly.
He wasn't going to be caught out like that again.
No way! He learned his lesson. He knew he needed overwhelming force.
Which brings us to Falkirk, July 1298.
Yeah. Edward brought the hammer down. Wallace's army was mostly spearmen, brave, but facing the elite English knights and a huge contingent of Welsh longbowmen.
The longbows were devastating, weren't they?
Absolutely lethal. The Scots formed their schiltrons, these dense circles of spearmen like giant hedgehogs. They could hold off cavalry charges pretty well.
But not arrows.
But not arrows. The longbowmen just stood back and rained down thousands of arrows into those packed formations. It was a massacre, men dropping constantly.
Nowhere to hide.
Nowhere. Eventually, the schiltrons started to break, gaps appeared, and the English knights charged in. Terrible losses for the Scots. John de Graham, Wallace's right-hand man, his best friend, died there.
A crushing defeat. What happened to Wallace then?
His star fell fast. He had to resign as guardian. Many nobles felt he'd gambled and lost. They distanced themselves. He became a fugitive, a ghost.
Disappeared from public view.
Pretty much. There are hints he went abroad, maybe France, maybe even Rome, looking for allies for support, but nothing came of it. Back in Scotland, others like Robert the Bruce and John Comyn took up the fight, but Edward never forgot Wallace.
He remained a target. The job wasn't finished until Wallace was caught.
Exactly. England's victory felt incomplete while Wallace was still out there, a symbol of defiance.
And his capture, when it finally came in August 1305, wasn't in battle.
No, it was betrayal. The worst kind. A Scottish knight, John Menteith, lured him into a trap near Glasgow.
Sold him out for English favor or gold.
Seems that way. Wallace, maybe worn down, maybe desperate, walked right into it.
And then began that long, humiliating journey south to London.
Yeah, a deliberate parade of shame. Dragged through towns, mocked, pelted with stones. It wasn't just about getting him to London, it was about breaking him psychologically before the end.
Because Edward didn't just want him dead.
No, Edward wanted a lesson. A spectacle so horrifying it would terrify anyone else who even thought about resisting English rule. He wanted to extinguish the very idea of Scottish freedom through Wallace's suffering.
So the trial in Westminster Hall, was it even really a trial?
A show trial, absolutely. Westminster Hall itself, this grand symbol of English justice and power. The charges were, frankly, laughable.
Treason.
Treason against a king he never accepted. Murder and robbery for killing occupying soldiers in wartime. Sacrilege. It was all nonsense, designed to justify the sentence they'd already decided on.
Did Wallace get to say anything?
He did, and his words were utterly defiant. He basically said, "I cannot be a traitor to Edward, for I was never his subject. He is not my king." Powerful.
Sticking to his principles right to the end.
Absolutely. But it made no difference to the outcome. The verdict was guilty, of course, and the sentence.
Hanged, drawn, and quartered.
The absolute peak of medieval judicial cruelty, designed not just to kill, but to obliterate, to dehumanize. Multiple deaths, really, drawn out for maximum agony and public display.
So August 23rd, 1305, execution day. What was the atmosphere like in London?
Electric, but in a dark way. A morbid excitement. The city was buzzing. People wanted to see this. The bloodlust was palpable.
And Wallace is stripped naked, tied to that hurdle again.
Yeah, treated like an animal, not a person.
Right.
Then dragged by a horse through the streets. Over the rough cobblestones, his skin, already weak, just tearing away, leaving a trail of blood.
Just horrific. Where do they take him?
To Smithfield, known as the Elms. It was a traditional execution spot, like an open-air theater for death.
And an executioner was waiting. A specialist.
A professional, yes. Chosen for his skill in keeping the victim alive as long as possible through the torment, not for a quick end. His job was to orchestrate the horror show.
So the hanging came first.
Yes, but not a clean drop to break the neck. He was slowly hoisted up, rope tightening around his throat, feet dangling, just enough pressure to strangle him slowly, make him convulse, struggle for air for agonizing minutes.
Kept on the edge of death.
Exactly. Then, just before he passed out, they lowered him, let him gasp for air. No escape into unconsciousness yet.
And then, the drawing, the disembowelment.
While he's still conscious, still fighting for breath, knives open his abdomen. They pull out his intestines, his stomach, yard after yard, hold them up for the crowd to see.
Well, he's alive.
While he's still alive. And throw them onto a fire burning nearby. The smell, burning flesh, blood, mingling with the cheers of the crowd. Utter desecration.
And even that wasn't the absolute end of the mutilation.
No. Then came the castration. His manhood cut off, held high, then thrown onto the flames. The symbolism was brutal and clear. This is the end of your line, the end of your defiance.
It's almost impossible to comprehend that level of cruelty.
It truly is. And yet reports suggest that somehow, incredibly, Wallace was still alive after all that. Still breathing, his eyes still holding some flicker of defiance.
His lips moving at the very end, maybe saying Scotland.
That's the legend, a final silent act of devotion. It's only after his heart finally stopped that the last part happened.
The quartering.
Right. His limbs hacked off with axes, and finally his head severed from his body, held up one last time.
And the remains. What happened to them?
The head was preserved in tar, stuck on a pike on London Grudge, a grisly first for that landmark. The 4 limbs were sent north, Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, Perth.
As warnings, posted in prominent places.
Exactly. A message from Edward. This is what happens. Don't even think about it.
Edward must have thought he'd finally won. Crushed the rebellion for good.
He certainly thought so. He believed that by destroying Wallace's body so utterly, he'd destroy the spirit of resistance. But he made a fundamental miscalculation.
He didn't understand martyrdom.
He didn't understand that such extreme brutality doesn't always crush people. Sometimes it galvanizes them. It creates a fury that's even harder to extinguish.
So, Wallace's death didn't end the fight.
Quite the opposite. It fueled it. Within months, Robert the Bruce makes his move, kills his rival John Cummin, and has himself crowned King of Scots. The war enters a new, arguably even fiercer phase.
And Edward Assay didn't live to see it finish.
Nope. He died just 2 years later, in 1307, still trying to subdue Scotland. His son, Edward II, was much less capable, and England's grip started to loosen.
And then came the Declaration of Arbroath in 1320.
A truly remarkable document, basically Scotland's Declaration of Independence sent to the Pope. And the language, it echoes Wallace's spirit completely.
That famous line.
It is in truth not for glory, nor riches, nor honors that we are fighting, but for freedom, for that alone, which no honest man gives up but with life itself. It's pure Wallace.
So he never saw a free Scotland?
No, he didn't. But his sacrifice, his refusal to break, planted the seeds. His horrific execution, meant to be the end, became the catalyst for the very thing Edward feared most. Wallace became immortal, not in his body, but in that spirit.
And even now, 7 centuries later, his name still resonates.
Absolutely. His story still inspires people facing impossible odds, people standing up to power, refusing to back down on their principles.
His real victory wasn't on the battlefield at the end, but in how he faced his death.
Unbroken.
Unbroken, unbowed, defiant. That's how he became a legend.
It really is an incredible paradox. The execution designed to erase him actually guaranteed his immortality, made his spirit eternal.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That some things, some ideas like freedom, they're bigger than any one person, any empire. Wallace's body was destroyed, but the dream he died for, still burning bright.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What beliefs, what principles are so important that they're worth defending no matter what? What's really worth fighting for? Hopefully this dive into Wallace's story gives you something to ponder about courage, sacrifice, and that undying, defiant spirit.